For thousands of years, along the banks of the Nile River, one of the most extraordinary civilizations in human history rose, flourished, and endured. Ancient Egypt did not simply appear and disappear like many other early states. Instead, it survived for more than 3,000 years, outlasting countless kingdoms, empires, and invasions. From the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt around 3100 BCE to its eventual absorption into the Roman world in 30 BCE, Egypt remained one of the most stable civilizations the world had ever seen. The question is simple but fascinating. How did ancient Egypt survive for so long? The answer begins with geography. Egypt's survival was deeply connected to the Nile River. Each year, the Nile flooded its banks, leaving behind rich, fertile soil that allowed crops to grow in an otherwise harsh desert environment. This predictable flooding created reliable agricultural production, which meant food stability for the population. Unlike many other early civilizations that faced unpredictable climate conditions, the Egyptians could depend on the Nile's rhythms. This agricultural security allowed the state to grow strong, organized, and prosperous. The surrounding geography also protected Egypt from many external threats. Vast deserts lay to the east and west. The Mediterranean Sea formed a natural barrier to the north, and the Nile's southern cataracts made large invasions difficult. These natural defenses meant Egypt was far less vulnerable than many neighboring regions. While other civilizations faced constant invasions, Egypt enjoyed long periods of relative security, giving it the time and stability needed to build institutions that could last for centuries. Another key reason for Egypt's survival was its powerful, centralized government. The Egyptian state was built around the authority of the pharaoh, who was not only a king, but also believed to be a divine figure chosen by the gods. The pharaoh represented order, stability, and cosmic balance, something the Egyptians called Ma'at. As long as the pharaoh ruled justly and maintained harmony with the gods, the world itself was believed to remain stable. This belief system reinforced loyalty and unity across the kingdom. The Egyptian government also developed an advanced administrative system. Scribes, officials, tax collectors, engineers, and priests formed a vast bureaucracy that helped manage everything from agriculture and construction to religion and trade. Writing systems such as hieroglyphs allowed records to be kept, taxes to be tracked, and laws to be enforced. This organized administration ensured that Egypt could function effectively, even across its long stretch of territory along the Nile. Religion played a massive role in maintaining Egyptian stability. Egyptian society was deeply spiritual, with gods believed to control every aspect of nature and life. Temples were not only religious centers but also economic hubs that owned land, managed resources, and employed thousands of workers. Priests worked alongside the state, reinforcing the idea that Egypt's political system was directly supported by the divine order of the universe. This connection between religion and government created a powerful cultural unity that lasted for generations. Cultural continuity was another reason Egypt survived so long. While many civilizations experienced dramatic cultural changes over time, Egyptian traditions remained remarkably consistent. Artistic styles, burial practices, religious rituals, and even architecture changed very slowly across centuries. The pyramids, tombs, temples, and monuments built during the Old Kingdom reflected ideas that would still exist thousands of years later. This continuity created a strong shared identity among Egyptians, linking generations together through a common worldview. The Egyptians were also masters of adaptation. Although the civilization is often remembered for its stability, Egypt did face periods of crisis. There were times when the central government collapsed, known as the intermediate periods, when political power fragmented and regional rulers competed for control. However, these periods rarely lasted forever. Eventually, strong leaders emerged who reunited the country and restored centralized rule. Each time Egypt fractured, it managed to rebuild itself and continue. Foreign influence also played an interesting role in Egypt's long survival. While Egypt was protected by geography, it was not completely isolated. Trade networks connected Egypt with Nubia, the Levant, Mesopotamia, and the Mediterranean world. These connections brought valuable goods such as gold, timber, incense, and luxury materials. They also exposed Egypt to new technologies, ideas, and military innovations that helped the civilization remain competitive with other powers. During certain periods, Egypt even expanded into a powerful empire. In the New Kingdom, pharaohs such as Thutmose III and Ramesses II led military campaigns that extended Egyptian influence deep into the Near East and Nubia. This expansion brought wealth, tribute, and prestige to the kingdom, strengthening its economy and political authority. These imperial centuries represented the height of Egypt's power on the international stage. Another important factor was Egypt's ability to integrate foreign rulers without completely losing its cultural identity. When outsiders eventually conquered Egypt, they often adopted Egyptian traditions rather than replacing them. The Hyksos, who ruled parts of Egypt during the Second Intermediate Period, introduced new military technologies like horse-drawn chariots, which the Egyptians later adopted. Centuries later, even when Alexander the Great conquered Egypt in 332 BCE, the Greek rulers who followed, known as the Ptolemies, presented themselves as traditional Egyptian pharaohs. This adaptability meant that Egypt's core culture remained intact even when political control changed hands. Temples continued to function, priests maintained religious traditions, and the population continued to see their land as the sacred center of their world. Yet no civilization lasts forever. By the first millennium BCE, Egypt faced increasing pressure from powerful empires rising across the Near East. The Assyrians invaded, followed by the Persians, and eventually the Macedonian forces of Alexander the Great. Although Egypt continued to exist under foreign dynasties for centuries, its final political independence ended in 30 BCE when Cleopatra VII was defeated and Egypt became a province of the Roman Empire. Even then, Egypt's legacy did not disappear. The civilization had already shaped architecture, religion, writing, engineering, and art for thousands of years. Its monuments still stood as symbols of ancient power, and its knowledge influenced cultures far beyond the Nile Valley. The true secret behind Egypt's 3,000-year survival was not a single factor, but a powerful combination of geography, stable food supply, strong government, cultural unity, religious belief, and the ability to adapt when necessary. Together, these elements created a civilization that could endure challenges that would have destroyed many others. Ancient Egypt was not just long-lasting by ancient standards. It was one of the most enduring civilizations in all of human history. For over 3 millennia, generation after generation lived along the Nile under traditions that felt timeless. Kingdoms rose and fell elsewhere, but Egypt continued, anchored by the river that gave it life, and by a culture that refused to fade easily into history.